is it? All right, okay, yeah. My name's King Zabal, uh, and I love the fact I'm actually doing this one because a friend of mine asked me an interesting question. Do you have to let CPS into your house when they come by? Um, which is interesting. I used to be a corrections officer, so we were part of the brotherhood of law enforcement, and I thought about it. And I personally have told CPS, no, you can't come in. And they're do their normal routine. And I see it a lot, and I've dealt with them a couple of times with this, where they go, well, it'll affect your case. Well, what's the case? What's the charge? Well, my investigation isn't done, so I don't have the charge. So no, you don't have to let CPS in. And they'll threaten you, and they'll threaten to call the cops. A friend of mine, he had dealt with CPS, and he actually got charged with a crime at the same time. What happened is he was home with his wife and child, and a CPS worker came by, and she asked, like she's supposed to, well, can you let me in your house? He looks at her and goes, no, you cannot come in my house. Well, she does her, and he's a law student. She goes, well, this will affect your case. The only thing that'll help your case is if you let me in. He still said no. She goes, okay, I'm gonna call the cops. He goes, okay, go ahead, call the cops. And so the cops show up, and he looks at the officer. Officer's like, well, what's the problem? And she goes, well, he's not letting me in the house. I have to do a health and welfare inspection. The guy goes, no, I'm not gonna let her in. Cop goes, well, sir, I'm suggesting you let her in. She goes, yeah, the cops are here. You're required to let me in. The officer is telling you have to let me in. He goes, looks at the officer, do you have a warrant? Officer goes, no, I don't have a warrant to search your house. What's your probable cause? And the officer turns, looks at the CPS worker. The CPS worker goes, suspicion of child abuse. My friend goes, that's not probable cause. Well, the CPS worker was getting pissed. And so, which is really hilarious. CPS worker looks at the cop and goes, oh, arrest him for impeding a police investigation. And this is unique and this is funny. They deliberately will say something like impeding a police investigation. One, there's no police investigation. They just called the officer, and so the officer's not investigating anything. So he gets arrested, and when the officer got there, he had actually locked his house. And when they arrested him, not the officer, the CPS worker dug through his pockets, grabbed his house keys, unlocked his house, walked in, inspected the house for 15 minutes, took his child, and they set up a court date. Well, when it got there, my friend was smart enough that he also had a lawyer, and he trained his wife, you don't talk to anybody without a lawyer. And when they got there, when they got to court, he looks at the judge and says, Your Honor, I didn't give them permission to search my house. And thank God it was the state that it's the state that he was in. My house was locked. They took my keys, unlocked it, walked into my house, and took my child. The judge looks and goes, okay, that's illegal. I'm sorry, case dismissed. And the impeding a police investigation, that's dismissed as well because it wasn't a police investigation. Even the officer admitted that he wasn't investigating anything. And this is a routine that CPS might pull. Oh, well, wait. We're not law enforcement. We don't have that legal authority, but we'll use the officer to get the legal authority. Another very interesting fact, and I've had 3 CPS cases. Well, actually 4. One got the CPS worker was like, there's no grounds. which I still haven't even looked at that damn case. I don't know if it's open or closed. Which is really weird. 3 of the cases, which I've lost my... 2 of them I lost my child. One of my cases, the mother was charged with child abuse. I was not charged with anything. In the report, it says there's no official charge, but after they had me see a psychiatrist, and that's something I tell people flat out. If CPS wants you to go see a therapist or psychiatrist to get evaluated, please do not do their therapist. And their grounds was that their therapist said that I had mental problems that made me disqualified from having a child. Okay, fast forward, my next case. I did everything they asked. And this was even with my lawyer suggesting this. Which I'm not going to mention who the lawyer was because I don't want to hurt his career. But oh my dear God, if you're... And I'm not going to say the state because whatever. I did everything CPS asked. And I still didn't get my child back. And the interesting fact is CPS worker said, we have no grounds to take your child. We have nothing to charge you with. And yet they still took my child. I got back to my home state, CPS again. Their grounds for taking the child was, my youngest was, you have a previous CPS case. No grounds in the state of Oregon. No calls to CPS. Actually, the call was that someone at the hospital heard that I had a previous CPS case and that this is grounds to take a child. And which is really hilarious is my wife asked the CPS worker to leave. And she stuck around, asked questions, took me home, checked my house, and said the house was thrashed to new levels. And that because we had a previous CPS case, even though it took them 30 days to even get an indication that we had a previous CPS case, they took our child. We got him back 90 days later, and we got lucky. We got him back, and the judge dismissed the case. But 90 days of them asking for continuance after continuance after continuance to build evidence. And to this day, they've never charged us with anything. And, which is really weird. And they were able to take our kid. And then a few weeks later, a month later, someone had threw some ash in the hospital, had to report it, and we got a really nice CPS worker. The worst part was, when the case was dismissed, the Department of Child Protective Services was told by a judge to dismiss the case. And they didn't dismiss it. And their excuse was, oh, well, we forgot. I had gotten a call from one of these organizations that CPS had us work with, and they called and said, hey, we're shutting down this case, and CPS came by, and I'm like, huh, what are you doing here? It's past 90 days. He goes, oh, well, I'm just coming by to do the last inspection. I completely forgot your case was open. Yikes. And it's really weird. A lot of people don't realize that CPS is in civil court. And it's really hard in civil court to prove CPS wrong. And this is why so many kids are taken. Because it's not on CPS to prove that a crime was committed. It's on the person that the crime is being charged with that the crime's there. Which is really weird. They don't have to prove to the courts that a crime is being committed. You have to prove to the courts that a crime is not being committed. And I find that just really ridiculous. Um, I would love for some comments. I'd love to have someone comment on what they've dealt with. If they're still struggling with CPS, or if they had a really good case. And I've heard horror stories, especially from friends, and it's weird. I mean, I don't understand how a government agency can turn around and say, well, wait, uh, yeah, and lawyers will flat out tell you not to talk to CPS. Don't give them anything. If they ask you a question, say, talk to my lawyer. I mean, the lawyer I had with uh, the case here, she struggled because CPS was trying to get access to my medical records, and which is really scary. And they finally got a court order, and they didn't get the medical records because the organization they had to get the medical records from was going to fight it. Um, and that was just scary. And yeah, I will catch y'all later.